Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The opinions of hosts and guests do not necessarily reflect the opinion of this network.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama. This is Ghost Talk with 187 PI. Sit back and prepare yourselves for an adventure into the paranormal world with host Shelly Robertson and 187 PI research team. Ghost Talk is broadcasting live from Ohio's most haunted jail. Learn about their ongoing research at the jail and abroad, investigation techniques, and their personal encounters. Here is your host of Ghost Talk and 187 PI founder, Shelly Robertson.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Ghost Talk Radio with me as your host, Shelly Robertson. Tonight, I have a very interesting show planned for you all. I will be discussing many different cryptids along with information about them, including legends and lore. I would like to invite all my listening friends out there tonight to join me in chat at WBHM-DB.com, where you can join in on the conversation or ask me any questions you may have. So, let's start off tonight's show with a little bit of background information, shall we? You know how I like to do that. First of all, cryptozoology, by definition, is the search for and the study of animals whose existence or survival is disputed or unsubstantiated, okay? That would be, an example would be like Loch Ness Monster or, the Yeti, okay? Zoology refers to the scientific study of animals. Cryptozoology, therefore, refers to the scientific study of hidden animals. In other words, cryptozoology is the study of animals whose existence has not been confirmed by the larger scientific community. Cryptozoologists, those who work in the field of cryptozoology, they research claimed sightings and folklore legends of these hidden animals, and they search for evidence of their existence, okay? Individuals working in this field spend most of their time trying to establish respected theories that can explain the claimed sightings of these mystery animals. Today, cryptozoology has become a popular interest, and it's even a topic of many television series. The academic community, well, they do not acknowledge cryptozoology as a true science. Instead, it is considered a pseudoscience, which means that it does not follow the scientific method. And we're all aware of how this works. That's much like paranormal research. They do not acknowledge it so much. Now, cryptozoology, it was originally founded in the 1950s by zoologists Bernard Hovelsmans and Ivan Sanderson. Now, while biologists regularly identify new species, cryptozoologists often focus on creatures from the folklore record, okay? Most famously, these include Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, Chupacabra, as well as so many others that they consider, beasts that can be labeled as monsters, right? Now, despite its claims of confirmed discoveries, cryptozoology continues to receive far more criticism than support from the scientific community. While academic sciences widely accept the fact that there are a number of animal species yet to be discovered, They argue that all of the large living animals have already been discovered, which I'm not so sure I agree with that, because how can you be sure you've discovered them all, right? Cryptozoologists focus their energy on just that, large animals that have thus far escaped discovery. And here lies one of the primary criticisms of cryptozoology. Another significant criticism of cryptozoology is that it fails to utilize the scientific method and instead relies solely on oral accounts of possible creatures. Additionally, cryptozoologists, they devote the entirety of their research to the existence of animal species that academics have long since deemed fictitious. Some individuals report that the study of cryptids is so deeply criticized that showing interest in the field could end a scientist's career. Cryptozoologists are often ridiculed and referred to as monster hunters rather than as legitimate scientists. Human gullibility is often credited with its popularity. Now, with all that craziness, some highly respected scientific academics have made somewhat positive references to cryptozoology. However, one example of this was when the Flores man was discovered in Indonesia in 2003. A paleontologist suggested that this find provided at least some proof that the creature of folklore may indeed be based on actual truth. In their search for these entities, cryptozoologists may employ devices such as motion-sensitive cameras, night vision equipment, and audio recording equipment. Much like, ghost hunting. While there have been attempts to codify cryptozoological approaches, unlike biologists, zoologists, botanists, and other academic disciplines, however, there are no accepted uniform or successful methods for pursuing cryptids. Some scholars have identified precursors to modern cryptozoology in certain medieval approaches to the folklore record. And the psychology behind the cryptozoology approach has been the subject of academic study. And going further in this, there's few cryptozoologists who have a formal science education, and fewer still have a science background directly relevant to cryptozoology. Now, that's not saying all. Of course, there are some people, there are a few, but the majority of it is just like any other, pseudoscience type of field, right? So it's also treated much like ghost hunting. Now, don't get me wrong. I myself am not discrediting cryptozoologists in any way. I'm talking about how it's viewed in the scientific community. And honestly, I have no doubt that there are unknowns out there, and I would be fooling myself to say that there is nothing left to be discovered, right? While I've never, to this date, had any experience with a cryptid, I cannot say that some of these couldn't or don't exist. I'm sure some of them do, right? And with all that being said, let's take a look at some of the cryptids that have been reported out there. Some very popular, and there may be a couple that you might not be aware of. Our search for these elusive creatures takes us to West Virginia to talk about the famed Mothman. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the Mothman. Now, the Mothman is classified as a winged bipedal and often described as a humanoid figure around 7 feet tall with a massive wingspan and hypnotic glowing red eyes. And this Mothman is reportedly seen in the Point Pleasant area of West Virginia. And It was first seen November 12th, 1966 to December 15th, 1967. Okay, first of it. And it was on November 12th, 1966, 5 men who were digging a grave at a cemetery near Clendenin, West Virginia, claimed to have seen a man-like figure fly low from the trees over their heads. This is often identified as the first known sighting of what became known as the Mothman. Shortly thereafter, on November 15th, 1966, 2 young couples from Point Pleasant, it was Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Malliott, they told police they saw a large gray creature whose eyes glowed red when the car's headlights picked it up, right? They described it as a large flying man with 10-foot wings following their car when they were driving in an area outside of town, okay? Now, during the next few days, other people reported similar sightings. Wildlife biologist Dr. Robert Smith at West Virginia University, he told reporters that descriptions and sightings all fit the sandhill crane. Now, the sandhill crane is a large American crane, almost as tall as a man, with a 7-foot wingspan featuring circles of reddish coloring around its eyes. And that bird may have wandered out of its migration route. Now, this particular crane was unrecognized at first because it was not native to this region. So, after the December 15th, 1967 collapse of the Silver Bridge and the death of 46 people, the incidents gave rise to the legend and connected the Mothman sightings to the bridge collapse. Now, some other reported sightings of the Mothman is near the Twin Towers before the collapse in New York City after the hijacked plane struck them. I seen a photograph that somebody had of that, and it made people start believing that the Mothman wants to warn about certain disasters that may occur anytime at any famous place, right? That's what people were thinking. So not only in Virginia, the Mothman is said to be sighted in different parts of the world. Like recently, it was sighted in Argentina. At Quileno, Argentina, citizens found that strange creature that had wings, but a humanoid figure appeared at night. And this gal, Carol Sanchez, she is a fireman, and along with her cop friend, they spotted this hooded creature, and they said it stood still, and then it started walking inside of the dark terrain up ahead of them, right? Now, another sighting was there were some people who were boating on the Ohio River, and suddenly they noticed a creature that looked much like the descriptions of the Mothman, and they stated that they weren't sure it was Mothman, but it was actually definitely something unnatural. Now, there's a common belief that the Mothman is associated with disaster. Whenever there's any big disaster, Mothman has been sighted by someone, and they compare it to the collapse of the Silver Bridge in West Virginia, or the 9/11 disaster. And there was this incident in Germany. So we're going all the way to Germany now. People saw something flying in the sky there, and descriptions fit. They thought it was the Mothman. And, you know, people are thinking it's associated with some kind of disaster. But when no disaster happened, the people who spotted it, they were thinking maybe, you know, it was not the Mothman, right? And they're like just wondering if some disaster is still about to happen. So, moving along, there's been so many sightings of this Mothman. In September 2006, in La Crosse, Wisconsin, there was this fella by the name Awahali, and he was a Cherokee man. Him and his son were driving down an isolated stretch of road at night when the Mothman attacked them. And Awahali shared his encounter, right? He told how the creature flew alongside and then directly in front of their windshield, close enough to touch. And they got a really good look at it, and they described it as bat-like and fleshy with sparse hair and red eyes. And they said the eyes were the size of road reflectors. Now, he described the monster's high-pitched screech, right? He said it gave them vertigo and made them sick to their stomachs. His son had to pull over. They threw up alongside of the road. And after returning to the location a few days later, in the daytime, of course, all they found left behind was a deer carcass they later blamed on a poacher. Now, there continues to be sightings to this day of the Mothman. Many sightings are now coming from Chicago even. Some folks have captured photos claiming to be the Mothman as recently as 2019. And I've seen several of these photos, and actually, there's something to be said about them. I mean, maybe not everyone is believable, but there are certainly a few that are highly questionable that they definitely caught something. Now, let's explore Ohio and take a look at the Ohio Grassman. The Ohio Grassman is a legend that's persisted for nearly 150 years in Ohio. The first sightings date back to 1869. They described the being, which would later become known as Ohio Grassman, as a legendary ape-like cryptid that reportedly inhabits the grasslands of Ohio, supposedly inhabiting the territory around Cuyahoga Valley National Park, right? The Grassman is described as a Bigfoot type of creature that's 7 to 10 feet tall and weighs anywhere from 350 to 1,000 pounds and leaves 3-toed tracks. Like, it's got 3 toe prints from his feet. And the reports are that they appear to be more aggressive than any other Sasquatch species, okay? The Grassman is quite similar to Bigfoot based on description alone, as it is a large, hairy, bipedal creature. Now, however, its behavior and habits set it apart from typical Bigfoot lore, all right? The Grassman seems to largely eat tall grasses. In fact, that's where the Ohio Grassman gets its name from. The Grassman is often seen around farms and especially eating tall grasses such as wheat. And this is perhaps the reason it is particular to Ohio, which has quite a bit of farmland. Now, 150 years ago, when the sightings first began, Ohio was quite underpopulated and there was plenty of water, places to shelter, and even game to hunt. Although it appears the Grassman's main diet is wheat and other farm products, when these are no longer available, they could hunt game, which is plentiful. Many Grassman sightings include more than one Grassman. Like, there's several. They travel in a pack. And it's reported that mothers have even babies, which I find that very interesting. The first prominent sightings of the Grassman occurred in a small village of Minerva, Ohio, in August of 1978, when the grandchildren of Evelyn and Hal Clayton, along with their friends, ran inside because the children said that they seen something that looked like a monster in the gravel pit outside. And with that, folks, we'll finish up this story when we come back after this short break You are listening to Ghost Talk Radio on WBHM-DB, Birmingham, Alabama.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama. Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
We are confident that none of our hosts are possessed. Being repossessed a few times? That might be a different story. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to Ghost Talk Radio. With me is your host, Shelly Robertson. And tonight I'm talking about cryptids, all the information, legends, lore, sightings. If you missed the first part of the show, no worries. You can catch the full show archive on Spreaker, Google Play, iTunes, and iHeartRadio at your leisure. Right before the break, I was talking about the Ohio Grassman, right? And we're getting into the sightings, okay? And I mentioned that these grandchildren of this lady, Evelyn and fella Hal, they spotted the hairy monster in a gravel pit outside. And they come running in the house. They were screaming and crying. And when the couple went out to investigate, what they saw was a big being with dark matted hair sitting in the pit and fiddling with discarded trash. They estimated it to be around 300 pounds, and the Mothman was known to kill dogs, and numerous unusual deer kills have been reported with, get this, just the deer's liver taken and the legs twisted completely off. Isn't that just like gory as ever? And the next sighting was June 24th, 1980. A remarkable incident took place in the town of Bell Fountain. The eyewitness, an off-duty police officer by the name of Ray Quay, said he was surprised and dumbfounded after seeing a 7-foot-tall, hairy animal in his barnyard while doing some work. Then in 2012, a video of an alleged grassman went viral when a YouTube user had uploaded the footage for the world to watch, right? Later, the video was no longer available due to the copyright claim. Now, in 2013, The TV show Mountain Monsters released the footage of a creature they believed to be a cryptid that fit the description of the Grassman. And a longtime news commentator, Jeffrey Kelly, covered it shortly after the show aired. Now, moving on, shall we? We will visit Loveland, Ohio, and take a look at the Loveland frog. The Loveland frog, otherwise known as the Loveland lizard, is said to be a humanoid creature with the face of a frog and is described as standing roughly 4 feet tall with green leathery skin. It walks upright and has webbed hands and feet and was allegedly first spotted, of course, in Loveland, Ohio. The first claimed sighting was in May of 1955. A businessman is said to have seen the 3 or 4 foot tall frog-faced creature squatting under a bridge near Loveland. The creature was described as having wrinkles instead of hair on their heads, lopsided chest, wide mouths without lips, just like frogs. One of them said that the creature held up a bar device that shedded sparks, right? And there was also a report during this incident of a strong odor of alfalfa and almonds was left behind. On March 3rd, 1972 at 1 a.m., Loveland police officer Ray Shockey was driving on Riverside Drive near the Totes Boot Factory and the Little Miami River when an unidentified animal scurried across the road in front of his vehicle. The animal was fully illuminated in his vehicle's headlights, and he described it as 3 to 4 feet tall and about 50 to 75 pounds with leathery skin. He reported spotting the animal crouched like a frog before it momentarily stood erect to climb over a guardrail and back down towards the river, right? Well, 2 weeks after that incident, a second Loveland police officer named Mark Matthews reported seeing an unidentified animal crouched along the road in the same vicinity as Shockey's sighting. Now, Matthews shot the animal, recovered the body, and put it in his trunk to show Officer Shockey. And according to Matthews, it was a large iguana about 3 to 3.5 feet long, and he didn't immediately recognize it because it was missing its tail. Matthews speculated the iguana had been somebody's pet, either got loose or was released when it grew too large. According to Matthews, Shockey was shown the dead iguana and confirmed it was the animal he had seen 2 weeks previously. But after that happened, there was a local farmer who also said to have seen the Loveland frog later that month, okay? In August of 2016, the local Cincinnati TV stations reported that a night of fun turned into a chilling tale of horror when 2 teenagers playing Pokemon Go between Loveland Madeira Road and Lake Isabella, they claimed to see a giant frog near the lake on August 3rd that stood up and walked on its hind legs. There is said to be video evidence of this encounter. So, does the Loveland frog exist or not, folks? We have a guest in our Spreaker chat, Lori Dorsey. She was saying that back in the 90s, there was a Bigfoot that come through her property and was following a pack of deer. And, you know, that would be so amazing to see that live, I think, because I have not seen one. And that would be just a vision to behold, wouldn't it? To actually see one. Next, folks, let's go to South Jersey and take a look at, you guessed it, you guys have all heard of this one, I'm sure, the Jersey Devil. In southern New Jersey and Philadelphia folklore, the Jersey Devil, also known as the Leeds Devil, is a legendary creature said to inhabit the Pine Barrens of South Jersey. The creature is often described as a flying biped with hooves and there's also been many reported variations, okay? The common description is that of a kangaroo-like creature with a goat or horse-like head, leathery, bat-like wings, horns, small arms, and clawed hands, and legs with cloven hooves, okay? Also, a forked tail. It has been reported to move quickly and is often described as emitting a high-pitched, blood-curdling scream. According to popular folklore, the Jersey Devil originated with a Pine Barren resident named Jane Leeds, known as Mother Leeds. The legend states that Mother Leeds had 12 children, and after finding she was pregnant for her 13th time, she cursed the child in frustration, crying that the child would be the devil, okay? During 1735, the year 1735, Mother Leeds was in labor on a stormy night while her friends gathered around here. Okay, so the child was born normal, but after it was born, the child changed to the creature with hooves, a goat head, bat wings, and a forked tail. It was growling and screaming. It beat everyone with its tail before flying up the chimney and heading into the pines. In some versions of the tale, Mother Leeds was supposedly a witch and the child's father was the devil himself. You know how things take a spin, right? Some versions of the legend also state that there was subsequently an attempt by local clergymen to exorcise the creature from Pine Barrens, all right? Obviously, that was not successful because there had been many sightings since. Over the years, like in 1909, there were many sightings reported by different people that included eminent personalities like, get this, Joseph Bonaparte. He was the brother of Napoleon Bonaparte and also the former King of Spain. Different people have experienced different things, but obviously photography was not that common in those days, so there's no images of the sightings. There is an image of the Jersey Devil that was drawn from the description given by different witnesses, okay? Now, that drawing was depicted in the Philadelphia Post in 1909. Now, later, after 1909, there was just so many sightings. In 1925, a farmer found a beast killing its chickens, so he shot at the beast, but it fled away. During 1961, tracks were found where the scream of an animal had been heard. People became so afraid of the incidences that were happening and being reported that wealthy merchants offered an amount of $250,000 to anyone who could catch the devil. Now, a sighting that was recorded during the 1980s when a group was driving through the Pine Barrens, okay, and they found something running in front of them that matched the descriptions of the Jersey Devil that they had been hearing since childhood. So, that was reported in the 1980s, right? Now, in 2007, recent sightings of the Jersey Devil are noted. Then, in New Jersey, a woman saw a huge creature that had bat-like wings near her home. During the same year, a young man who was driving past the Mount Laurel and Moorestown area had a similar sighting. So, another sighting that was seen by Dave Black, he was a Little Harbor resident. It was on Route 9. He was driving along the golf course when he saw the beast. He took his cell phone and started taking pictures, and he actually captured it in a photo. All right, and during 2009, okay, over 100 years of frequent sightings of this Jersey Devil was reported, right? A New Jersey citizen claimed that they had seen the Jersey Devil while driving toward Woodstown during the night. He thought it to be a deer. He slammed on his brakes, and then he found that the creature could fly. It disappeared in the woods. So it's still being spotted, and obviously no one has captured one. In cryptozoology, the Jersey Devil is one of those weird creatures that many investigators prefer to ignore, okay? When it is thought to be an undiscovered species of animal, it is generally classified as a living pterodactyl, perhaps a genus similar to the Dimorphodon, all right? And I find that also very interesting. And I have seen a couple of photos that fellow from the golf course, I did see a couple of those, and it was very interesting. Now let's visit Lee County in South Carolina and take a look into the lizard man of Scape Swamp, all right? In the folklore of Lee County, South Carolina, the lizard man of Scape Swamp, also known as lizard man of Lee County, however they want to address it, is an entity that is said to inhabit the swampland of the region. It was first mentioned in the late 1980s, and the reported sightings and damages that were attributed to the creature, they yield a significant amount of newspaper, radio, and television publicity, okay? So it was broadcast everywhere, right? On July 14th, 1988, the Lee County Sheriff's Office investigated a report of a car damaged overnight while parked at a home in the area of Browntown outside Bishopville, South Carolina. And that's right on the edges of the Scape Swamp, all right? The car reportedly had tooth marks and scratches with hair and muddy footprints left behind. Now, Sheriff Truesdale noted this was the start of various claims that eventually escalated into stories about a lizard man in the swamp. Now, prompted by the news of the vehicle damage, there was this 17-year-old local boy, Christopher Davis. He reported to the sheriff that his car was damaged by a creature he described as green, wet-like, about 7 feet tall, and had 3 fingers, red eyes, skin like a lizard, snake-like scales, 2 weeks prior to this event that had been reported, right? According to Davis, he was driving home from working the night shift at a fast food restaurant when his car got a flat tire. So after fixing the flat tire, he saw a creature walking toward him. Davis got in his car and he began to drive, but the creature was soon on top of the car. He applied his brakes, causing the creature to roll off the car, giving Davis enough time to escape. Now, coverage by newspapers and media resulted in increased attention for his claims, okay? Local businesses began selling Lizard Man t-shirts, and the local Chamber of Commerce encouraged the media attention as it being good for the community. All right, so they were welcoming these reports of this lizard man. Now, the increase in the newspaper and media publicity prompted further reports of sightings, and the area soon became a tourist attraction for visitors and hunters. There was this local radio station, WCOS. They offered a $1 million reward to anybody who could capture the creature alive. On August 5th, there was this fella named Kenneth Orr. He was an airman stationed at Shaw Air Force Base. He filed a police report alleging that he had encountered the lizard man on Highway 15, and he had shot and wounded it. He presented several scales and a small quantity of blood as evidence. Blood, is evidence, right? Orr recanted this account 2 days later when he was arraigned for unlawfully carrying a pistol and the misdemeanor offense of filing a false police report. According to Orr, he had hoaxed the sighting in order to keep the stories about the lizard man in circulation. Reports of the creature gradually declined at the end of the summer. Local law enforcement officials speculated that the sightings were likely to have been caused by a bear, right? In 2008, CNN mentioned the lizard man legend in a story about a couple in Bishopville, South Carolina, who reported damage to their vehicle, including blood traces, right? The blood traces were subsequently found to be from a domestic dog, though the local sheriff suggested it might have been a coyote or a wolf. Then in 2015, local television station WCIV, they featured photos and videos claimed to be lizard man, and these were allegedly taken by some unidentified individuals. Then in August of 2017, the South Carolina Emergency Management Division sent a humorous tweet regarding possible paranormal activity during the solar eclipse that passed over the area, hinting that people of Lee and Sumter County should remain vigilant for sightings of the lizard man. So they kind of were making a joke out of it, right? So in 2010, the TV program Destination Truth featured the legendary creature. The lizard man has also appeared on sci-fi show Fact or Fake in an episode titled Reptile Rampage. The original story ran in more than 100 newspapers across the country. And since 2015, new photo and video footage have emerged purporting to show South Carolina's mythic swamp monster known as Lizard Man that was first spotted nearly 30 years ago. Local legend has it that Lizard Man is 7 feet tall and is a reptilian creature. It was like this woman stepped outside of her church and she's seen the creature. Then she went and grabbed her cell phone and she snapped a picture of it. Okay, the resulting image depicted a muscular, upright humanoid with 3 clawed toes on each foot and clawed fingers. And a day after this alleged encounter, a man came forward with a video. The 24-second clip appears to show a tall, dark figure with a long tail darting into the trees. Now, I have seen the photo, and the photo looks questionable to me. It doesn't look real, okay? I can't say whether it was real or not, but it's questionable to me. And I've seen the video clip, and it looks like something odd indeed. The clip is compelling. You'll all have to look it up and then judge that for yourselves, right? And with that, folks, we have to take a short break. You've been listening to Ghost Talk Radio on WBHM-DB, Birmingham, Alabama.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back to Ghost Talk Radio with me as your host, Shelly Robertson, and tonight I'm talking about cryptids, legend, lore, sightings, and more, okay? And if you missed the first part of the show, no worries, folks. You can catch the full show archive on Spreaker, Google Play, iHeart, and iTunes Radio at your leisure. The next place we're going to go to is we're going to travel to British Columbia, Canada, where we will explore the Ogopogo. I know that sounds crazy, right? In Canadian folklore, the Ogopogo, or Augie, it's a lake monster, okay? And it's said to inhabit the Okanagan Lake in British Columbia, Canada. Now, some scholars have charted the entity's development from the First Nations folklore and widespread water monster folklore motifs, right? It's a Native American folklore. The Ogopogo now plays a role in the commercial symbolism and media representation of the region. Now, according to Radford, the Ogopogo is more closely tied to native myth than any other lake monster. All right. The natives, they regarded the Ogopogo, which they called the Nataka, that's what they called it, they regarded it as an evil supernatural entity with great power and ill intent. The word Nataka has various translations, such as water demon, water god, or sacred creature of the water. Okay. Now, in native lore, the Nataka demanded a live sacrifice for safe crossing of the lake. For hundreds of years, First Nations would sacrifice small animals before entering the water, right? Oral traditions often describe visiting Chief Timbasket, who rejected the required sacrifice, refuting the existence of the demon, right? Now, upon entering the lake on a canoe with his family, Nataka whipped up the surface of the lake with his long tail, and the canoe and its occupants was sucked to the bottom of the lake. The Nataka was often described as using its tail to create fierce storms to drown victims, all right? Local lore claims that Sir John Lambton killed a worm from the lake, which resulted in all of his descendants coming under a witch's curse, which would not allow any of Lambton's descendants to die in bed. I don't know. That's kind of a crazy curse, right? In 1855, there was a settler named John McDougall. He claimed that his horses were sucked down into the water and nearly his canoe before he cut the line. The Nataka was said to reside in caves under Rattlesnake Island, also known as Monster Island, or adjacent to Squally Point. Now, there was this gal, Susan Allison. She had a sighting in 1872, which was the first detailed Ogopogo account from a white settler. She was the first non-native person to live in the region, establishing relations with the native people. And that was the first non-native sighting. Now, there's this fella named Art Folden, and he was driving on Highway 97 in 1968 when he noticed something moving in the lake. He pulled off the road. He filmed what he claimed to be footage of the alleged creature showing a large wake moving across the water. Now, this fella Art, he estimated that the Ogopogo was 300 yards offshore. Okay. A computer analysis of the footage, it concluded it was a solid three-dimensional object, and it seemed lifelike, but they weren't able to distinguish exactly what it was, right? Now, a 2005 investigation conducted by Benjamin Radford with Joel Nichol and John Kirk for the National Geographic Channel for that TV show that's called Is It Real? They utilized surveyor boats to find the actual distance of the alleged creature from the shore. They found it was much closer to shore than originally thought, resulting in a reduction of actual size and speed. They concluded that it was likely a real animal, but its size had been greatly overestimated, and that it was probably like maybe a waterfowl, an otter, or a beaver, and it was definitely too far away to be identified. So, here we go. In the 1980s, a local tourism agency offered a cash reward for a proven sighting of the beast. Greenpeace announced that the beast must be filmed and not captured. And if you can believe this, the Ogopogo was listed as an endangered species. In 1980, around 50 tourists to watch an alleged Ogopogo for about 45 minutes off the beach at Kelowna. Now, this fellow named Larry Thale, and he was a tourist from Vancouver. He shot some 8mm film, but it was only about 10 seconds that caught this on film. Now, there's been some skeptics that have suggested that it was a pair of otters, okay, that were swimming together. And then we get to 1998, and John Kirk, he reportedly saw an animal which was 35 to 40 feet long and consisted of 5 sleek jet black humps with a lashing tail. All right. He believed it to be traveling around 25 miles an hour. Okay. And so then we get to July 24th of 92. Something was videotaped that was traveling just below the surface of the water at a fairly good speed, estimated being about 5 miles an hour. All right. A boat was towing a water skier, and they suddenly appear in the frame, and the skier falls into the water near the object. Well, within several minutes, this fella made 2 other videotapes, each showing what appeared to be multiple animals in the water. Benjamin Radford suggested that the creature was only several otters. In 2005, FBI video specialist Grant Fredericks concluded that the object was very consistent with debris from a fallen tree in the water, noting that it very slowly bobs up and down. He also pointed out that the alleged creature did not react to the water skier, and the skier did not seem alarmed. Okay? Now, we get to 2011. So you see somebody's been capturing something all these years, citing something. In 2011, a cell phone video captured 2 dark shapes in the water. A suggested explanation is that the video shows 2 logs. Radford analyzed the video for Discovery News and concluded that the video quality is poor and the camera was shaky. But a closer look at the 30-second video reveals that instead of 1 large object, there are actually 2 shorter objects, and they seem to be floating next to each other at slightly different angles. There's no humps, no head, no form, only 2 long, darkish, more or less straight forms that appear to be a few dozen feet long. So, they concluded that it looked kind of like floating logs, and their explanation is that would be likely because the lake has tens of thousands of logs that are harvested by the timber industry floating just under the lake's surface. That happens all the time. So in September 2018, there was reportedly 3 sightings, one of which was described as a giant snake that was about 49 feet long. So, does the Ogopogo exist or not? I will let you guys be the judge of that. Now let's travel to the high seas to explore the Kraken. The Kraken is a legendary sea-like monster of gigantic size in Scandinavian folklore. According to the Norse sagas, the Kraken dwells off the coasts of Norway and Greenland and terrorized nearby sailors. Authors over the years have postulated that the legend may have originated from sightings of giant squids that grow 40 to 50 feet in length. That's huge. The sheer size and fearsome appearance attributed to the Kraken have made it a common ocean-dwelling monster in various fictional works, of course. Now, the Kraken has been the focus of many superstitious sailors passing the North Atlantic, and especially sailors from the Nordic counties due to the proximity and its Scandinavian origin. Now, throughout centuries, the Kraken has been a staple part of sailor superstition and myths, and it's been heavily linked to a sailor's ability to tell tall tales, right? Now, the original word, Kraken, that became taboo, right? As it was believed it could summon the creatures. The Kraken was extensively described by Eric Pontoppidan. He was a bishop of Bergen in his natural history book, which is the first attempt at the natural history of Norway, Copenhagen, 1752, right? Now, Pontoppidan made several claims regarding Kraken, including the notion that the creature was sometimes mistaken for an island, and that the real danger to sailors was not the creature itself, but rather the whirlpool left in its wake. However, Pontoppidan also described the destructive potential of the giant beast. It is said that if the creature's arms were to lay hold of the largest man of war, they would pull it down to the bottom of the sea. Now, according to Pontoppidan, Norwegian fishermen often took the risk of trying to fish over the Kraken since the catch was so plentiful. Hence the saying, if you're a fisherman out there, you must have fished on the Kraken. Pontoppidan also proposed that a specimen of the monster, perhaps a young and careless one, was washed ashore and died in Alstog in 1680. By 1755, Pontoppidan's description of the Kraken, it of course had been translated into English, right? In 1802, this French fella, he recognized the existence of 2 kinds of giant octopus, and it was an encyclopedia description of mollusks, right? This French fella, his name was Montfort, he claimed that the first type, the Kraken octopus, had been described by Norwegian sailors and American whalers, as well as ancient writers such as Pliny the Elder. The much larger second type, which is the colossal octopus, was reported to have attacked a sailing vessel from St. Malo off the coast of Angola. Now, Montfort later dared more sensational claims. He proposed that 10 British warships, including the captured French ship of the line Ville de Paris, which had mysteriously disappeared one night in 1782, must have been attacked and sunk by the giant octopus, right? The British, however, knew, courtesy of a survivor from the Ville de Paris, that the ship had been lost in a hurricane off the coast of Newfoundland in September 1782, resulting in a disgraceful revelation for Montfort, right? Since the late 18th century, Kraken has been depicted in a number of ways, primarily as a large octopus-like creature, and it has often been alleged that Pontoppidan's Kraken might have been based on sailors' observations of a giant squid. The Kraken also depicted to have spikes on its suckers, right? In the earliest descriptions, however, the creature was more crab-like than octopus-like and generally possessed traits that are more associated with large whales rather than with giant squid. Some traits of the Kraken resemble undersea volcanic activity occurring in the Iceland region, including bubbles of water, sudden dangerous currents, and the appearance of new islets, right? So, is there evidence that the Kraken existed? Although there's no evidence that the Kraken exists in modern times, it may have existed back in the Triassic. Scientists have found 9 ichthyosaurs, and some have suckers on their bones. The animal is said to be as long as a blue whale. There's this conspiracy theorist that claims to have spotted this mystical Kraken swimming off the coast of Deception Island near Antarctica. Now, he was using Google Earth. This sea monster appears to be 100 feet from head to end with the mid-area of the giant squid, right? In the middle of it looking like squid. This sighting occurred April 9th, 2016, right? Another conspiracy theorist has posted about the find, but with different opinion about the large object, okay? If you were to look more closely, it looks like an artificially made object, an underwater UFO coming out of the ocean. The unknown author shared the UFO sightings hotspot, right? And a video of the unusual sighting was posted on YouTube. So, folks, you can look that up and look at that footage and decide for yourselves if you believe it to be a UFO spaceship or the Kraken. So, and with that, we are coming to the close of our show. I would like to thank all of you for tuning in to this live broadcast tonight. I wish everyone a happy Friday, the rest of your evening, and have a fantastic weekend. Keep safe, and good night, friends.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.